It's 7 o'clock in Gardner, Kansas. Call me to order. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, good evening. Happy Independence Day Eve. Yes, it is. All right, so we have no presentations this evening, no public hearings, so we'll move right to public comments. And members of the public are welcome to use this time to make comments about city matters or items on the agenda that are not part of a public hearing. If you wish to come forward, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less. There is a 5-minute time clock to your left. No profanity, no personal attacks. With that being said, come forward, state your name and address for the record. The podium is now open. Evening, Heath.
Good evening. My name's Heath Freeman at 602, sorry, that's big, 602 North Walnut here in Gardner. I have just a couple things this evening I wanted to address. The first one, I don't know how many of you on Facebook are following the Wondermore's Visit 627 Facebook campaign where the gentleman's visiting all 627 municipalities in the state of Kansas. I'm obsessed. I just, every new trip, I dive through all of them, look at every single one. The one thing, and this is a big about turn for me because I've been against it pretty loudly in the past, is our monument signage is woefully inadequate and embarrassingly so compared to some of these other cities. So I'm here today to ask the council to conform consensus to direct staff to begin investigation on making an adjustment with our monument signage. And I know with the southbound exit with some of the plans with the state and the change, that might not be the time to do that, but we're more solidified out by McDonald's and what we could do there. What I do caution staff and council to do, a lot of times when we talk about this, when we've talked about in the past, people throw really big numbers at this. It's 75K, 80K, that's not what this has to be. And look at these examples and find out what $10,000 and $15,000 might be able to do, and look at alternative funding mechanisms. Our transient guest tax could be used for that really easily. Sponsorship opportunities will be tied into it, and I think even our grant writer could look at some opportunities for that. So I'm here today to ask that tonight maybe form consensus during council updates to direct staff to begin a project to at least with exit, just escaped me, but out by McDonald's of what we could do for a monument sign that'd be a little bit more adequate for our city because we're top 17 now in regards to population wise, but our monument signage doesn't even compare to some of these cities with 122 people in a barn still for their city hall. And that just, obviously personally it's not embarrassing, but as a city you look at it, it is kind of a black mark that we should be able to do a little bit better than that. So I'm here to eat a little humble pie because in the past I've said it'd be a waste of money, but when you see it in that way and you see so many examples of it, you realize that's not what we want. That's who we should be. So I'm asking for that tonight. The next thing I wanted to bring up, just a follow up from the last meeting, mentioned about the email comment conversation. From the minutes, the consensus was that email comments would not be able to be read into the public record any longer. If that is the case, I hope that you reconsider and take on Ms. Deaton's suggestion of them being limited to the same 5 minutes as other public comments. That way someone can't skirt past the opportunity with a long written letter that they wouldn't be able to read during the public comments. I think that's a very fair compromise and hope that you might entertain that this evening and change direction slightly with that. With that, I also think during, or wherever it's posted, that folks can be able to do so, suggest a word count. I'm not quite sure what a traditional reading word count might be, but suggest to them that they limit their email comments for the public discourse to be 500 words or less. Just a couple directives to come along, because you do have a population that doesn't have access to a Monday night meeting when they still might like to be a part of the process and have their thoughts and comments part of the public record. So I hope that you might consider that. The next thing I had actually were just a couple thank yous. Also, thank you to Jim and to the chief and the rest of the staff for the dog calming treats in the headphone. Obviously, this time of year it's perfect. We just heard why my dogs need it because there was a bang as I'm talking. Now they've got the munchies in the morning, but that's glad that we're able to offer that. And I appreciate it. And we also got our tags renewed, so it's a win-win for both sides. And then finally, just a personal thank you to City Clerk Rose, because the minutes are so well written and so thorough. It makes a huge difference to those folks that don't want to watch an entire YouTube meeting for some of the in and outs unless they want to go back and do so, but really get an understanding what the business of the day was, and it's a huge benefit. So thank you for that personal level. Thank you, everybody. Have a good evening and a happy 4th and safe.
Thanks, Heath.
Thanks, Heath.
Any other public comment? All right. That being said, we'll move to the consent agenda. Is there an item on the consent agenda council would like to remove? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Shute, second Deaton. We approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, abstain. Consent agenda passes. Nothing on planning and zoning consent, no committee recommendations, no old business. At this point, we have an executive session item. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Baldwin, that we recess into executive session to discuss matters of attorney-client privilege pursuant to KSA 75-4319B2, beginning at 7:06, returning to regular session at 7:18. I'm gonna give you the extra 2 minutes, 12 minutes.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're in executive session. And we used all 18 minutes. Thank you, or 12 minutes, I mean. Do I have a motion to reconvene?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second. Shoot.
Yeah, that's me.
The return to regular session. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? Back in session. All right. New business item number 1. Consider adopting a resolution regarding the governing body's intent to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate. Matt.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. Tonight's presentation has 3 kind of components to it. We'll go over assessed valuation and mill rates, scenarios, and then resolution of intent. The estimate for a valuation increase that we had is about 11%. Keeping a flat mill rate and capturing that valuation increase would increase property taxes on the average Gardner single-family home by about $5.38 a month. For the purpose of this analysis, we assume that the average Gardner home appraisal is about $305,000. The revenue neutral rate would decrease the mill rate by 2.092 mils. A mill is worth approximately $311,000. The revenue neutral rate would limit property taxes to the same dollar amount as the prior year and would lower allocations of motor vehicle tax and county sales tax in future budgets. The first scenario is the flat mill levy scenario. Basically, we have a general fund target balance of 30%, and we look at this over a 5-year forecast. And if we had a flat mill levy, we'd basically be ending the 5-year forecast with a general fund balance of 26%, slightly below the target fund balance. And we'd also be preserving a $9.25 million on interest fiscal capacity, which means we'd have the ability to go out and issue about $9.25 million in principal amount of 10-year GO bonds to support new projects. At the end of the last meeting, Council directed staff to basically put in a $0.5 mil reduction as a placeholder into the budget. Staff's recommendation is still the same as the last meeting, where we were recommending a flat scenario. The reason for this is it would give us the fiscal capacity to act on economic development opportunities and also provide local matches for grants for large infrastructure projects. It would also help maintain adequate fund balance, and this would then help maintain our credit rating as well. It would also address kind of unexpected increases in insurance premiums. Just a reminder, like our health insurance more than doubled from 2022 to 2024, and then our property liability insurance went up about 60% in premiums. Scenario 2 is that $0.5 mil reduction. And now I'm showing it, if we rolled it back in bond and interest, that would basically reduce your fiscal capacity from $9.25 million to $7.5 million. And if you decided to roll it back in the general fund, that would lower our fund balance to 22% by the end of the 5-year forecast, noticeably below our 30% target. A $1 mil reduction would reduce our ability to do projects down to about $5.75 million. And then on option 2, the general fund approach, it would lower our ending fund balance down to 18%. This is a follow-up on a request from council to basically look at a no impact to average home scenario. It's very similar to the revenue neutral rate. This would roll back 1.839 mils. If we did that in the bond and interest fund, it would reduce kind of that fiscal capacity down to 3 million. If we did this in the general fund, it would lower the ending fund balance down to 12%. And then revenue neutral rate, that would roll back 2.092 mils. This is in the bond and interest fund. It would reduce basically fiscal capacity from 9.25 million to 2.25 million. Or if we did this in the general fund, it would lower our ending fund balance down to 10%. This slide shows comparison of all the different mill rate scenarios right next to each other. And keep in mind a mill rate, or a mill is about $311,000. The next steps is to consider the resolution of intent to exceed the revenue neutral rate, set a public hearing, and staff is looking for direction on the mill rate to include on that resolution.
All right, thank you, Matt. Is there any public comment on new business item number 1?
No, just kidding.
All right, council. Mark? you look-
I was vocal last time.
You want me to start?
No, I got it. So, we've rolled back the last couple of years. I've always been pushing Matt to give us what happens. I love the 5-year forecast, but what happens the next year if it's just 1 year? Can we handle something for just 1 year, right? And we've basically done that the last 2 years, and that's been great. Looking at those numbers more, discussing some projects some more, the bond and interest number is troublesome. You can't do much with $9.5 million, let alone anything less, particularly in today's economy. And then everything else, it didn't look like there was a single option, in my opinion, for a general fund reduction because the 5-year forecast was abysmal. And we'd really be digging ourselves out. So at this time, for at least 1 year, I would say we go with the flat rate, no change. Staff's recommendation.
I know, because I'm like,
I know.
I'm shocked.
I know. But it's kind of like, when you're at your house and you're making your own budget, you say, if I don't have it, I don't have it, right? You don't spend it. But at the same time, you invest in your 401k or something else. We can't shoot ourselves completely in the foot. Now, that doesn't mean that next year, depending on what's happened or not happened or whatever, this won't be a different scenario and I'll say, heck no, let's go back 3. But probably not. That's a lot. Yeah. But at this moment, I think staff's recommendation is sound.
well, I originally had thought at the last meeting the flat rate was what I was going to go with, and then we kind of talked it over and thought maybe a half mil. But I'm going to keep with my original thing is just keep it the flat.
I thought of a $0.5 mil reduction as a compromise.
Appreciate it.
Hey, I'm always looking for the compromise, Mark. I'm not an absolutist or anything like that. Not that there's anybody on there like that, but I would tend to concur. I'm looking at where we are as a pretty critical time right now in the history of our community when it comes to infrastructure. We are bringing in enough money right now from our commercial development to be able to supplement some of our residential, which is a good thing. We've made some progress there. But now we've got our another big infrastructure pieces that are coming. We've got wastewater, we've got transportation, particularly transportation is going to be coming out on the east side of I-35. We've got an interchange that we still need to address, at least one. And so it doesn't, given the fact that, anything that comes from a grant perspective is going to require matching funds. Right now, we don't have very many. We have very little on the books to allow us to do that. So given the fact that we are aggressively pursuing grants and aggressively pursuing these development projects, I think that a pause is a good thing right now. And also, we don't know what the economy is going to do in the next 12 months. And we don't want to be in a situation that, our friend Heath was in back in 2011 where we had to raise mills in the middle of a recession. I don't want to be in that position again. So although Heath didn't come up and say anything, I'm sure he'd probably agree with us on that. Seeing he lived through it, and it wasn't pleasant. It wasn't pleasant at all. So, I think it's probably time for a pause on this. It's prudent at this point.
None of us up here want to have higher taxes for the citizens.
Gosh,
Obviously,
we're citizens.
Yeah, anything we can do helps. And as I'm looking at Matt's numbers, like, could we split it between bond and interest and general fund and make it a little bit doable? But I think we have to make sure that we have enough for our growing infrastructure. That if we have a project that comes up, we don't have to pass up on it because we don't have the funds. So I'm okay with the flat rate.
I don't want to split the baby. And if we have to make some pull some rabbits out of hats. This gives us some flexibility to pull some rabbits out of hats if we had to. We have no flexibility the other way.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's just too much going on in the area with, the Panasonic plant, stuff going in. We can't continue to, we have to be ready to exercise what we can do.
All right, so I think there's consensus, Matt.
Okay.
Okay. All right. You need anything further? So we have to. So the resolution then will be
It's just that we're
just exceeding, correct?
Yeah, it's
Right.
just,
Okay.
yeah.
Just the final resolution.
Yeah, we can still change our mind tomorrow.
Yes.
Yep.
All right. So do I have a motion for new business item number 1?
So, second.
Motion Deaton, second Shoot, that we adopt resolution number 2126, a resolution of the City of Gardner, Kansas regarding the governing body's intent to levy a property tax exceeding the revenue neutral rate. City Clerk?
Councilmember Shute,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ween,
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Yes.
Mayor Winters.
Yes. Resolution number 2126 passes. New business item number 2, consider adopting a resolution authorizing the public sale of approximately $1,520,000 principal amount of general obligation temporary notes, Series 2023A of the city. Finance Director.
Series 2023A temporary notes will renew the 2022B temporary notes and extend the maturity date 12 months. The extension will allow for time for completion of certain improvements related to the Hilltop Ridge Special Benefit District and for final costs to be down before issuing permanent financing. Municipal Advisor Ben Hart of Baker Tilly is here at this meeting tonight and has a small presentation for you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Nothing as exciting as just setting a mill levy, though. It's quite a feat. So my name is Ben Hart. I work for Baker Tilly Municipal Advisor, advisory firm. We're the city's financial advisor. We'll be working with Matt on this upcoming temporary note issue. I just wanted to take this opportunity to obviously introduce myself and what we do, but also kind of a little bit about this process. So before you tonight is just the resolution authorizing the public sale, and that's all it is. Technically, from a bond market perspective, you don't need one of these, although they like to see it, to see the governing bodies behind what's going to be sold. The sale will take place August 7th. Within your packet, you've got a several-page document that kind of goes through some of the more legalese, if you will. Some of it's just a summary of what we're going to be doing over the next few weeks. In the front part of that document, there's we call it the pre-sale resolution, the pre-sale summary. It is really the calendar, what's going to happen. We've got a rating call that's going to be scheduled for July 17th, and we'll undergo that rating analysis with Matt and Standard & Poor's to reaffirm the city's current rating at AA. And then once that language is put together, we'll take that language along with what's called an offering document, an official statement, take that to the market for sale and extend these bonds out for another year. And that's all this is doing, is just extending it out for another year. Within that same pre-sale notice is a preliminary estimated amortization schedule. It's our best estimate as to what that amortization might look like coming up. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. Any public comment? All right, no public comment. Council, any questions for Mr. Hart?
Well, first I'll say welcome.
Yes.
Welcome to the city.
Right.
Well, you have some shoes to fill there. We used to get, well, from the standpoint of just really good news. I hope you're a good purveyor of good news, because we've gotten used to that the last several years. But
Yep.
would love to see you bringing some great news to us from the standpoint of the bond sales.
Absolutely.
We've been rather fortunate the last several years on
Absolutely.
our ability to be able to make a lot of lemonade.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I'm almost intimately familiar with what is happening down here in Gardner. I live in southern Olathe,
Okay.
just south of Lake Olathe. So when we go to restaurants, we come down here, and I'm not kidding you. We'll go to Austin's over here, we'll come down to Dairy Queen. So we've seen this happening for a while now. And Gardner's exploding, yeah.
Yes, yes it is. Well, welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, no further questions. Do I have a motion for new business item number 2?
So moved.
Motion Shoot, second Deaton. We adopt resolution number 2127, a resolution authorizing the public sale of approximately $1,520,000 principal amount of general obligation temporary notes, Series 2023A, taxable under federal law of the city of Gardner, Kansas. City Clerk.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ween,
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Shute,
Yes.
Resolution number 2127 passes. New business item number 3, consider accepting a voluntary annexation with landowner consent. City Administrator Pruding.
Good evening. It's a voluntary annexation for 5 parcels located on the southeast corner of 175th and Clare. They total almost 60 acres. The agreement outlines the terms agreed upon by the city and property owners as conditions for the consent. Terms are consistent with the direction of the governing body regarding annexation of rural properties in the city's planning and growth area east of I-35. Recommend accepting the voluntary annexation agreement from property owners identified in Adopt Ordinance 2774, annexing the land into the city of Gardner.
Thank you, Jim.
Sure.
Any public comment?
Heath Freeman, 602 North Walnut here in Gardner. Steve just looked so sad the last 2 agenda items. I do I do think the annexation is a fantastic idea for the city. I'm glad it's come to fruition. Thank you.
Thank you, Heath.
Thanks, Heath.
Any public or any council comments?
Not after that.
No? All right. Do I have a motion for new business item number 3?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Shoot, second Deaton. We accept the voluntary consent annexation agreement from the property owners identified within and adopt ordinance number 2774, an ordinance annexing land to the city of Gardner, Kansas. City Clerk.
Councilmember Ween,
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Shute,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Ordinance number 2774 passes. New business item number 4. Consider a resolution of the city approving the execution and delivery of an amendment to a memorandum of understanding and a land bank agreement in connection with 2 development projects within the city, Waverly Plaza and Stone Creek.
On November 14th, 2019, the city entered into an MOU with the Bristol Group in connection with the Waverly Plaza project. The MOU outlines certain economic incentives, and the city agreed to consider upon development of certain commercial and residential improvements at Waverly Plaza. This amendment to the MOU provides a 3-year timeframe for the developer to commence construction of the improvements. And since the MOU was entered, the Bristol Group has acquired additional properties near their existing commercial district, Moonlight Commons Shopping Center, for the development of a commercial, industrial, and residential project known as Stone Creek Project. Stone Creek properties are currently subject to tax and special assessment delinquencies, making them difficult to develop. The city, the Bristol Group, Bristol Partners, and the city's land bank have determined it is necessary to desirable to enter into a land banking agreement to address the tax delinquencies and abate a portion of the special assessments on the property comprising the Stone Creek project to facilitate development. The proposed resolution approves the execution and delivery of an amendment to the MOU and the land bank agreement by the city. It shall be in full force and effect upon the adoption of the resolution of the Board of Trustees of the City of Gardner's Land Bank on this date, approving the execution and delivery of the land bank agreement by the land bank. Bond Counsel Ellsworth is here tonight and can now answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you, Matt. Any public comment? Council, questions, comments?
2 questions. Under section 2 of understanding, letter A, developer has diligently pursued a building permit as described in this section during such 3-year time frame. Define diligently pursued for me. No.
That's right.
Good evening, council members. I'm happy to address that.
Thank you.
The diligently pursued only comes into play if after 3 years the developer has not obtained a building permit. So at that point, it's really your discretion. It's what you think is appropriate. I mean, the developer could argue if you felt like you weren't going to grant them an extension, and they felt that they had been diligent, but that's pretty standard language, requiring them to use their commercially reasonable efforts to move things forward.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And then second question, if a building permit is acquired, how long can they essentially sit on said building permit without actually doing any groundwork?
It's a Bob question.
That's Bob.
Trying to hit everybody.
I appreciate that. I've been looking that up and trying to come up with the answer. I know the number of, I think it's a year sticks in my head, but I could be wrong.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
Any other questions?
Back to that question. So Bob, you think there is a time limit, we just don't know what it is. It's not indefinite, right?
No, it's not indefinite.
Okay.
And actually, the clock keeps on ticking if they call in for an inspection after they have the building
Okay.
permit. So if our inspectors go out there and inspect certain aspects of the construction process, that time gets extended outward.
Okay. If no further questions, do I have a motion for new business item number 4?
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Roberts. We adopt resolution number 2128, resolution of the City of Gardner, Kansas, approving the execution and delivery of an amendment to a memorandum of understanding and a land bank agreement in connection with 2 development projects within the city, Waverly Plaza and Stone Creek. City Clerk.
Councilmember Roberts,
Yes.
Councilmember Shute,
Yes.
Councilmember Baldwin,
Yes.
Councilmember Ween,
Yes.
Councilmember Deaton,
Yes.
Resolution number 2128 passes. All right, so, let's see. Okay, so we are going to recess regular session at this time with a motion. And then we will reconvene as the land bank, and we'll go from there. So do I have a motion to recess regular session at this time?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Shute. We recess the regular meeting of the City Council to take up 1 new business item, sitting as the Board of Trustees of the Gardner Land Bank. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? Recessed. Do I have a motion to convene the body as the Gardner Land Bank Board of Trustees? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. I call the meeting to order. As the Gardner Land Bank Board of Trustees, I call the meeting to order. So, item number 1, consider a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Land Bank of the City approving the execution and delivery of a land bank agreement in connection with a development project within the city, Stone Creek. Matt.
The city and the developer and the city's land bank have determined it necessary and desirable to enter into a land bank agreement to address tax delinquencies and abate a portion of special assessments on the property comprising the Stone Creek project. The proposed resolution authorizes the execution and delivery of the land bank agreement. Staff recommends that you adopt the resolution.
Thank you, Matt. Any public comment? Any comments or question from the Bank Board of Trustees? Which is you guys?
I'll say my piece now during the board meeting. Not really happy about how all this has gone down. I'm only agreeing to this because of the fact that something will happen we've got, this is basically the last best chance. So I will vote for this, but grudgingly.
Second.
Okay. So do I have a motion, resolution number 0001?
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Ween. We adopt resolution number 0001, a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Land Bank of the City of Gardner, Kansas, approving the execution and delivery of a land bank agreement in connection with a development project within the city, Stone Creek.
Board Member Shute,
Yes.
Board Member Baldwin,
Yes.
Board Member Ween,
Yes.
Board Member Deaton,
Yes.
Board Member Roberts,
Yes.
Chair Winters,
Yes. Resolution number 0001 passes. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn the land bank?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Shute. We adjourn the Land Bank Board of Trustees meeting with a, okay. Yes, we adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? What adjournment? So I do need a motion to reconvene, is that correct? Yes, okay, so do I have a motion to
So
reconvene?
moved.
Second.
Motion Shute, second Deaton, we reconvene, regular session, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain? We're back in regular session.
Phew.
Okay, so we'll move to council updates. Gons, you've been pretty quiet over there. We can start with you.
I'm doing fine, but I don't have anything tonight.
All right, thanks,
Okay.
Gons. Bob? We'll go right to you.
Nothing to report tonight.
All right, thank you. Kellen, Public Works.
Nothing particular to report other than a quick update, US 56. If I had a nickel for every time I got a plan that Amino didn't quite finish up on, I'd have a lot of nickels right now. So we're waiting for an update from them on an updated schedule, and I'll push that out as soon as I get it.
Have we been pushing them on the driveways to get the west side finished there?
As much as we have the ability to push a contract that's led by KDOT.
Right, of course, yeah. But they know we would prefer that they finish that. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Chief.
Good evening. The calming dog treats have been a huge hit. We've given out about 200 and had a lot of people register their pets because of that.
Excellent.
So we very much appreciate that. We did host the Teen Driving Academy last week, and we had 10 Gardner area kids attend that. So we're hoping to build on that next year. That was very successful. And we have ran a few fireworks calls, but nothing overwhelming. So things are going well.
Great. Thanks. City Clerk.
nothing for you tonight, thank you.
Finance Director.
Yes. During my budget presentations, I mentioned that large increase in premiums to property and liability insurance. That's mostly due to basically NPR dropping coverage for our power plants and basic electric utility. And I just want to give you a more detailed update on that. Basically our risk coordinator has been working with Gallagher, our broker, to basically find insurance. They went out and tried to get, I think, 5 different quotes. We finally just got one in like a few days before the end of the month. Our insurance ended, June 30th. So there wasn't time, unless we were going to go a few days without coverage, that I made the recommendation to the city administrator to go ahead and execute that agreement. It's, I would say, over $400,000, but according to our purchasing policy, I wanted to basically get that report from the council. I considered it a critical need to basically make sure we get insurance in place.
Yeah. Obviously. I agree.
That's not exactly to cover rabbits. We want you to pull out.
No.
Just to be clear.
Transparency, though.
Appreciate it.
Nope. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Matt. City Attorney, your check. All right. Thanks for being here. City Administrator.
First, I want to address Keith's comments about the monument sign.
we do when, especially with development near I-35, we have made several inquiries about doing something when new development comes in. Now, we have talked to KDOT about a monument sign, and after Olathe did their big one, KDOT stopped allowing municipalities to put monument signs in their right-of-way. I went to Topeka last week and met with the secretary and the deputy secretary of transportation, and that's one of the things that I asked him about was revisiting the monument sign, and he agreed that he was going to talk to staff about that. Talked to him about the no left turn sign at the Gardner Bridge as well, and his first impression was that he agrees with our position that we need a sign there. So I'm supposed to hear something about that this week. Now the bad news. So the Gardner Bridge project, they are delaying it for a full year. So they are not going to let the project until the fall of 2024. According to the secretary, they are overwhelmed with their right-of-way staff and all the projects they have. So they had to revisit and reprioritize the letting of projects. And we got pushed to fall 2024. He's aware, I made him aware that this has already been pushed 2 years. So this will be the third year that we've delayed that project. So the primary reason for my visit up there was I'm trying to negotiate access to the property east of McDonald's. The airport and the county don't want us going through the RPZ off Cedar Niles. There's a proposal to access that off of the interstate and redesign the off-ramp. And their staff is not in favor of that. So that's what we're trying to work through. I'm trying to get an answer for that as soon as possible. I think that's it. Sorry for the bad news. We should get something, an update from them that is more official relatively soon.
All right, thanks, Jim. Okay, council.
I get to follow that?
Yes, you have good news.
No, I don't think I have anything for tonight. We can talk more about, I don't know if we want to talk about meeting minutes, or not meeting minutes, I'm sorry, about comments.
Sure, yeah, we can talk about that now.
Yeah, I don't know where we ended up last meeting about emailed in comments. I know we talked about, you know, Mayor, you reading faster, I'm sorry.
John Machine.
But I think that, yeah,
Pretty much.
or and at least having it, you know, be part of the record, even if we don't get through the whole one. But I guess I'm okay with the idea of reading for 5 minutes if we want, or
I liked his suggestion of the 500 words. I mean, that just.
And
I
even
would tend to.
though it could be a suggested word count, and if they go over it, then we cut it off.
Yeah, or I mean, as long as they're keeping it
I mean,
close to five, you
Oh,
know,
here's-
500-ish. That
we think-
seems.
Here's my thinking on this. We've usually, even before COVID, if someone sent an email to the city clerk, we were not under any obligation to read it into the record, but it became part of the record. It was actually attached to the minutes of the meeting. I don't see any reason why we couldn't do that.
I think that's what we agreed upon last meeting,
I mean-
was that if they emailed in a comment, it would be entered into the minutes, it just might not be read
Into the
in
record,
the
yeah.
record. I thought that's what we had talked about.
yeah, and I hear that, but I don't know that I feel like it at least should be read. I mean, because I don't
And
necessarily get that.
I'm okay with it being read. My issue is just if, I could write a 10-page,
I agree.
book and.
I think that's a valid point, very valid point.
If it's going to be read, it needs to be less than 500 words.
Call me old school, I don't think we read anything in it. We've got 24 meetings a year for somebody to make an attempt to come and have a public comment. Or they can write each of us, or call any of us. I've met with plenty of people at their homes or ground house. I think everybody else is willing to do so. If it's just a matter of getting information in front of the governing body, there's no reason for the public comment. If you want the public comment, then I think that's on you to show up.
I tend to agree with you because I was a person that showed up for quite a while before I got up here. However, my only caveat to that is school board meetings are also on Monday nights. And I know there have been a couple school board meetings I wish I could make a public comment at, but I can't because I'm here. So sometimes citizens can be torn, and yes, they can email us and stuff, but if they have a comment that they would like to be public, I don't mind reading it. I just want it to be fair whether you show up or you don't show up.
And I hear that point. I would be curious to know how many citizens have been disenfranchised if they had to go to both meetings on the same night because they were up in arms about something at two different venues, right? I'm not trying to pick on what you said, Casey. I'm just,
And I doubt
because
that
we have, here's our public most of the time. No offense, Heath, but here's our public. Nobody's here.
Well,
So I don't know why we would.
no, they're here for things that are directly impacting
Right.
them.
So that's my point. When somebody is up in arms about something, they pack this room. When Fairfield's development was going on, there's standing room only.
And I agree, and I get that. The only reason I addressed it was I'd rather address it before it's standing room only, and then there's 5 comments to read, and then we're trying to figure out the rules. If the rules are clear tonight, when there isn't a crowd and isn't 5 comments to be read in, then we know that it was fair and not biased based off of the agenda item.
I tend to like us getting the emails and reading them and giving them, we don't get that many.
No, we don't.
No.
And
We should get more, to be honest.
that want them to be read for the meeting. I think we need to have a time, the same, whatever, if you have the time limit here, it should be the same for whoever reads it, in my opinion.
Well, if you limit it to 500 words, I think that fixes that problem.
Okay.
There'll be less than
And I-
500.
and
And
I'd
it helps
also-
if we have a disabled community that
Right.
can't make it to the meeting
Or if someone just isn't comfortable standing up in front of people.
I think it gives people more opportunity to get,
We
to
don't have,
provide opinion in their comments, which is what we want. We want people to give us information.
I don't mind reading them.
But
And maybe people would rather hear, if it's 500 words or less, maybe
limit
people
it
just
to 500 words and
appreciate
you don't
my
have the
radio
problem.
voice and want to hear their email with my
So
voice.
would we limit both to 500 words, in person and email?
Well, 5 minutes if they're in the
5
room.
minutes.
5 minutes if they're in the
So
room.
I can email a video as long as it's less than 5 minutes, and it's 78,000 words. No, you
I
can't.
think it needs to be the same,
Why not?
in my opinion.
Can I not send an attachment to share it?
I don't think that we allow video
We have not.
comments.
Well, I think we
Just-
better address that too. Then
I would say
that's
no-
my point. I mean,
no video.
what is the door here? How much? Are
No
we
video.
not allowing?
No video.
No video. Okay.
Just a 500 if, I mean, there's not that many, I don't feel like there is.
No. 500 words.
500 words or
500
less?
words
Okay with
is a half of a page of single spaced writing. I think that's fine.
So if you email, you get 500 words, but if you're in person, you can talk
5
for
minutes.
5 minutes.
Yes.
There you go.
I think
Really
that
let the city show up.
that rewards people who come to the room and can make the podium. I think that's a good compromise.
I do too.
I think we give it a shot. I think we try it out. I mean, we may not
And next
hit
week,
this
Keith
yet.
might come here with a better idea.
I think that's good consensus. Okay?
Okay.
All right.
Consensus.
Yes. All right. Mark, did you have anything else?
No, that's all. Thank you.
Councilmember Roberts?
I don't have anything. I was going to ask about a pickleball update, but I know Jason's probably busy planning everything
Mhm.
that's going on. Just happy Independence Day to everyone. That's it.
Thank you. Councilmember Deaton?
The monument, thanks for bringing that up. Thank you for addressing it when you went to the meeting. It's something that I think is great. I know KDOT is dragging their feet, so as long as we can just see what's out there when we get the chance. We also have a CPAC meeting on July 10th at 7 p.m. at the Justice Center. It's Chief Wallach's first CPAC meeting, so come on down.
Is it taser night?
Taser.
Oh, that'd be so fun. We should maybe think about that.
If you're volunteering.
Oh.
Tase a council
Hey,
member.
remember
night.
the whole night tag thing? You got to catch me first.
Oh
And
man.
Happy Independence Day.
Yep.
Excellent. Yeah. Council Vice President?
Yeah, a couple of things. You have no idea how unhappy I am about that news from KDOT. Someone is going to die on that bridge. It's only a matter of time. And it's already, they did interim repairs about 4 or 5 years ago. If you go across that bridge right now, it's worse than it was before. The structural integrity of that bridge, they're saying there's nothing wrong with that bridge, but waiting another year, I'm concerned about it, especially when you've got 18-wheelers going across that bridge on an ongoing basis all the time. So I'm hoping that KDOT has good liability, and I'm hoping that somebody doesn't end up losing their life on that bridge.
So I did ask
So-
questions that he couldn't answer. So the guy that is in charge of the project called and left me a message Friday that he's gone until this Thursday, but he's supposed to call me. So I'll have more information next time about,
Yeah.
how exactly we got to this point. But, he mentioned that the right-of-way people are overwhelmed. He mentioned that in the state of Kansas, there's only 250 licensed surveyors, so they're having difficulty. But I asked the question what they were doing to address their staffing shortage, and they're really not doing much at all. And with the billions of dollars available through grants through the federal government, you would think that that would be a number one priority for them. So, but you can also, you can look, if you drive on K10, you can see that they, reassign resources to the Panasonic development.
Yes, they
which
did.
makes sense. It's a $4 billion development, but, when he said we reprioritize the letting schedule, that's part of it. So.
Yeah, and the problem is that that's a safety issue. It's a clear and present safety issue, and if KDOT's maintain all along, they've always said, safety is our number one priority. They've always said that in KDOT. Well, it's not. It's obvious. And I'm very, very unhappy, and I'm hoping that there'll be more on the council that believe the same that I am, that we cannot just let this say no. They're gonna just put us on the wayside again. Because who's to say it's not gonna happen next year, or the year after that, or the year after that? And we've already seen. We got 199th Street, that project that really didn't address anything. It got pushed in front of ours. The 69 Highway Express Lane project really didn't. There was a solution in search of a problem, in my opinion. It's not that bad down there. I've been on that road over the last 5 years. But they got prioritized over us. And I can go on and on and on. I am sick of this. And I don't know how much more I can make it clear that I'm just, I'm by wit's end on this one. That's enough. The other thing is happy 4th of July. Make sure that you are safe with your fireworks. Don't end the 4th of July with less limbs than you had when you went in. That is all.
Thanks, Steve. Council President?
Happy Independence Day.
Yes. Independence
Killing me.
Day. Yes.
Killing me. I don't have anything else. I feel Steve's sentiments. I agree. All my comments shouldn't be said in public, so I'm done on that.
I was censoring myself too.
Yeah. I just want to say I'm happy again about the calming treats, and I think the headphones as well have been going well. So hopefully that will help some people with that. And we did. There was an interview with KCTV5 the other day. So again, it puts Gardner in a good light. They did a nice little story about it. So with that, I have nothing further. Happy Independence Day. And do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Motion Deaton, second Shoot. We adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstain?
So if a person eats one of those calming dog treats,